Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Welcome to Farnsworth Reads. Today we're going to be reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one knows quite the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that most likely the reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm light windows below in their own town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging mistletoe wreath. And there, hanging their stockings, he snarled and sneered, "Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here." Then he growled, with his grinchy fingers nervously drumming, "I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming." For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake up bright and early. They'd rush down for their toys, and then, oh, the noise! Oh, the noise, 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 noise! That's the one thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise! Then the Who, young and old, would sit down at a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and feast, feast, feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together, with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Whoville Christmas singing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop the whole thing. Why, for 43 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch had a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. I will make a Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and he chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With his coat and his hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer, the Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some empty sacks on his ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos laid a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quite snow-filled the air, and all the Whos were dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinch Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bag in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck once for a moment or two, then he snuck past, his head out the fireplace flew, where the little Who's stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slurped, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present, popgun and bicycle, and roller skate, and drum, checkerboard, tricycle, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he sluck into the icebox, and he took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding, he took the roast beef. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and started to shove, when he heard a small sound like a coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know that old Grinch was smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. He patted her on the head, got her a drink, and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, that old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that wasn't even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still in bed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsels, the trimmings, and the trappings. 3,000 feet up in the side of Mount Climp, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-hoo to the Who's, he grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will be hung open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville's will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, and he then shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without presents at all. He didn't stop Christmas from coming. It came somehow or another. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart did feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and brought it back the toys, and the food for the feast, and he, himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. If you have a suggestion, feel free to email me at farnswortharchibaldturner@gmail.com. And come on back, we'll read some more.